Welcome back to USBiologyTeaching.com. If you've gotten this far, chances are you looked at our introductory video and now you have entered your email and you have got into this screen, or at least past the screen a little bit. So from here, you've clicked on the link that was provided in the email and you are now going to make a copy. Now, before you can do that, it's important to make sure that you're logged into your Google account. If you don't have one, you need to create one. There's a link in our blog that will take you directly to the Google account if you don't have one where you can sign up. It doesn't take long, and there are a lot of valuable tools that are absolutely free for you to use. So I recommend doing that, and without that, you cannot use this tool since it runs off of Google Forms. So once you do that, you're going to click on this button that says Make a Copy. It takes a second to load up. There's a lot of things going on. You're actually creating several different forms all at the same time, as you can see across the bottom. We've just created a whole bunch of different calculation tabs in addition to the form that I'm going to show you later. So this is how you will land. You're going to actually land on the raw calculations tab, and what that means is this is the actual tab that I created, and this is going to take the information from your form responses, which this tab right here across the bottom is going to populate with all the responses that you get from your students. So with that information, it's going to populate here automatically on the back end. So that's what we're looking at here, is the back end of the form and where all the calculations are going to take place. Now, before we get too far, I want to show you the form. So in order for you to actually be able to use the form, you have to know where it's at. So in order to do that, you're going to come up here to where it says Form. All right, with this form, you're going to click right here, and you're going to go to the live form. Alright, so we've landed on our live form, so I'm just going to scroll down, give you a peek at exactly what it looks like, in case you forget. So here we have our 5 criteria that your students are going to use to rank each other or rate each other, however you want to say it. And one thing I want to emphasize here is the first and last name. If I go back to that spreadsheet, the copy, one of the things you can do is actually you can sort this information using a variety of filters, and you can sort by last name. All these other calculations are based off of the student's last name, since it's more rare to have students with the same exact last name than it is to actually have the same students with the first name. So that's why I use the last name, as the parameter is going to kind of separate all of this data for you. So it's really important that your students, when they start to fill this out, actually fill in the correct last name with the proper spelling. If they don't use the proper spelling, Google Forms is going to view that person as a separate person. That's not good. It's going to and it will actually calculate things differently. And it'll make your forms and your back-end data look kind of messy. So you really want to make sure and emphasize 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it takes times for your students to make sure that they have that correct spelling. I even provide my students with a printed list of all their first and last names just to make sure that they can reference it and they could look at it and spell things properly. So this is what the form looks like. This is what your students will see. Now, how will they ever see it? Well, if you want to click on this little button up here in the right-hand form that says Edit Form, your students will not be able to see this once you share it. But since you are the owner of the form, after you create a copy, you become the owner, and you're going to be able to go ahead and make this shareable for them, and they will not be able to edit it. In order to make it shareable for them, you're basically just going to click on this simple little send button. It tells you exactly what it's going to do. You're going to send it over to your students. So if you click on that, this is going to pop up. Now, depending on what you have access to, if you have access to all your students' emails or maybe a Remind account, you can simply send a email, or I like to use the link. I could place this link on my Moodle page, or you could place it on your Google Classroom or whatever platform you're going to use. But the link is really simple to use. You just simply copy it and you send it over to your students. You could even click here and it'll shorten that URL for you so it's not so long and messy. Unless you have a good reason, you're just going to want to check that box for collect email address. You really don't need to collect the email address of the students unless you have some other purpose for it. Alright, so we're just going to close out of here, and now I'm going to take you over to the back end. I'm going to show you some of the test data that I've run and kind of some of the things I can do with it. So I'm just going to pop over here to a tab that I have all ready to go, and I'm going to slide down to the raw calculations. Here you can see all the data points. I used some notable scientists as our candidates today. So you can see I ranked them randomly on a few data points, on the 5 criteria, that we actually have in the form. You can simply change this. If you edit this in the form, this across the top will also change. I wouldn't do that after you started collecting data, since it wouldn't be a true representation of the data that you have. But you can simply make another copy, and if you wanted to manipulate what this stuff says, you can simply do that from the form in that edit tab that I showed you before. So here's the data. Here are the average scores, the sum score, and the percentages. My favorite part about this spreadsheet is the fact that I can have students who have worked in groups of 4, 5, 2, 3. They could all rate each other, every single partner that they work with. And this will actually calculate all of that data together and spit out one number for me without me having to grade 150 papers for one class of 30 that happen to have groups of 5. So when I look at this, I can see that Crick had 2 partners, so he was in a group of 3, and those 2 people ranked Crick, and they scored him an 88 and a 92. What's nice is it spits out to me a 90%, so I can easily apply that to a gradebook score. I also have, if I want to do total score, I have that across the bottom. Or if I want to do on a 5-point scale, I have that also calculated for you. So you have all those available to use. Now, there are some other cool tricks that we can do with this. So let's take a look. Alright, so for now, I'm taking a look at some of this data, and I'm going to focus on the percentage scores right now. Now, you might be apt to try to go ahead and just insert a graph. And you're going to get something that looks like this. And sometimes you just got to wait a second before you can move it out of the way. There's a lot of data calculations going on, so it does take a little bit in order to load. So over here is our chart data. We can choose what type of chart makes sense for our particular scenario. And I'm just going to scroll down. I prefer this type of chart, let's just say. Now that doesn't look too good. So in order to prevent this from happening, we actually have to delete one of these columns, the percentage scores, because what's happening is both of them are being displayed on this chart. So you can do that by simply clicking on this column and scrolling over here and finding that particular percentage score, and you could X it out. Now, I'm not going to actually do that for this particular tab. I'm going to create a copy of it. That way I always have my data that was collected before. So I'm going to show you what that looks like over here. And that's exactly what I've done over here. I just simply deleted the tab that said percentage score, and I was left with this data. And this is the data that I want. I really just want the total averages of their scores. So this is going to be their percentage average of all the ratings that they received. In this case, for Crick and Darwin, it was only 2, and Franklin, Mendel, and Watson only had 1 data point each. So that's something you can do as well. I will caution you, There are some quirks with this form. You can see up here there's a 0%. So in some cases, I've messed around with applying these filters that you see up here, and you can create the filters and you can start to filter some things out, but sometimes that does impact the data. So you want to use that stuff with caution. And I also recommend that after you collect some data from a class, you go ahead and save that form or name it something, maybe name it by the date that the data collection took place. And then next time you could always add on to that, but at least you'll have that copy to always fall back to. All right. So that is about it for our tour of our data and our data collection. I hope you really find this useful as a tool. And if you have some questions, you can head over to our members area in the forum and ask some questions there. Or you can shoot me an email at brad@usbiologyteaching.com. If this is your first time on usbiologyteaching.com, take a moment and look around. Check out some of our blog posts, and we also offer a full biology curriculum here where you will have your entire year of lesson plans completely planned out, everything you can possibly think of that you need. To learn more, you can find us over at usbiologyteaching.com/full biology curriculum. You can scroll through all the things that we offer, all the units that are included, and everything that we have, including some testimonials from some of our community members. Thanks for stopping by. I really hope you find the tool useful, and I hope to see you in the community.